Can we please make it a good rule that anybody that's saying good music stopped in the 60s and 70s, can we just outlaw that saying at this point? Because I always feel whenever anybody says that, I'm like, well, you're just lazy. Because there is good music in that vein being written and produced today. This album being a perfect example of that. So, with that being said, let's dive into this record.
I can be everything in my own play.
To Shoot Another Day by Rosalie Cunningham. So, Rosaline Cunningham is an English singer-songwriter, very much in the 60s, 70s psychedelic rock style. I was introduced to her with her project of Person, which put out 2 records. Desire's Magic Theater won my favorite album of the year in 2016. She was also in another band called Ipso Facto, and both of these bands had some pretty good success, both commercially and critically. But she decided in 2018 to kind of break out onto her own, and she's done 3 records now with just her solo title of Rosalie Cunningham. Her first one being self-titled, the second one being the 2-piece puzzle, and now we have To Shoot Another Day. And her style of music is very singular and very replicatable in a way that each song you can tell is okay, well, that's definitely a Rosaline style song. That's signature. Her sound is very singular, but there's also a lot of variations that you can play with it. So it's immediately recognizable, but there's a lot that you can do with it. Now, her first record and her second record were fine. There wasn't too much to write home about. I just wish that there maybe was a little bit more variety in the sound. I wish she was kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit more within her creative outpour. And so when we came to Shoot Another Day, I was just excited for another album from her. At no point did I ever feel like she put out a bad record, even with Ipso Facto and Person. I was just hoping for some good vibes. That's what I was hoping for. I was hoping for some good vibes. And I was very pleasantly surprised with this one. I would probably say this is her strongest, most cohesive, and most unified record that she's ever put out. It does show that she's pushing the boundaries a little bit, but it also shows that she's very comfortable playing in the soundscapes that she likes to construct. This is also probably her most trippy album and most 70s psychedelic record that she's done. Just look at the second track of Timothy Martin's Conditioning School, which has a little happy birthday signature. It sounds very psychedelic 60s Beatles from the Yellow Submarine or the Magical Mystery Tour kind of aspect. There's a lot of really Ringo Starr experimentations being found on here, as well as in the song of In the Shape of the Shadows, has a number of those, again, very Beatles-esque kind of Fab Four, British Invasion kind of a soundscape to it that I particularly enjoyed. I do enjoy some of her poetry as well, specifically on the track of Good to Be Damned, where she's saying, I'm so high, I'm looking down on heaven, and it's just oh, that's actually quite, it's got layers, it's an onion. You can peel back some of the different layers on there. What's really forefront is the 2-pronged punch of Rosaline's singing and her commanding voice, that's really harkening back to that psychedelic 70s aspect, and her guitar styles. Her guitar licks and her guitar playing add a really interesting dynamic to the overall presentation of this. Look at the title track of To Shoot Another Day, which has a very prominent and catchy guitar lick that really roots the track home, as well as some of the more deeper cuts of Spook Rocket. Again, it's that psychedelic aspect of this. It's got this interplay between these really deep keyboards that are found on here with the interplay within the guitars. My favorite tracks on here, though, are some of the more smaller takes. I really like Denim Eyes. It has a very haunting aspect of it. There's this almost minor tone aspect within some of the harmonizations that I really appreciate that adds such a unique flavor to the already, simmering stew that Rosaline's playing with, as well as the premiere. Again, it almost has this For Benefit of Mr. Kite kind of flair to it. And I don't want to keep leaning on the Beatles in this, but there are so many moments on here that I'm oh yeah, there's kind of got that essence to it. And I also love when Rosalie likes to play a little bit more on the grading side of things, like the smut peddler has such a dark and menacing approach that feels like there's this very smooth, almost like honey aspect, but there's like these grains in it, like honey that's starting to crystallize in it. But the thing that keeps getting me back is the psychedelic aspect of it. There's so many moments on here that reminds me of like a very early Deep Purple, which is one of my favorite iterations of Deep Purple, like Heavy Pencil and Return of the Eglinton, like both feel very trippy, very, once again, psychedelic. And I just love those like kind of interplay. And, Rosalie isn't afraid to introduce more types of instruments, like on Heavy Pencil, starting off with a flute, and Return of Eglinton having that really distorted heavy guitar aspect of there. Once again, it's more of those intimate and smaller moments, like Stepped Out of Time, that really connects me with Rosalie more as a artist. I can see that a lot of these tracks are coming from the heart and are coming from a very personal and deep and intimate space. And nothing more could show that than the final track of Home, that brings everything back together and really showcases her ability to have a little bit of fun in this more vulnerable and more exposure moment. So yeah, in the end, To Shoot Another Day was a really, really great treat for me. As I mentioned at the beginning of this review, I think this is her strongest work. You can see that a lot of work has gone into this record to make it flow very well. The ebb and flow of this album from start to finish goes by really quickly, even though it's like 53 minutes worth of music, it goes by in a flash. So it's the perfect length. It has just the right amount of kind of every little ingredient that I love. It's just a little bit witchy, just a little bit hippie, just a little bit peace, love, and rainbows, but it also has just a little bit of darkness, a little bit of, the grading aspects of it to really balance everything out. So yeah. In the end, I will say To Shoot Another Day by Rosalie Cunningham is absolutely one I would pick up in physical format. This is an album that I can almost recommend to everybody. Like it's so inviting and so pleasant that it's hard to deny just how catchy a lot of these tracks are. So yeah, this is a very easy recommendation for me. Go and check it out if you're a fan of this more psychedelic rock that I feel like we've kind of lost touch with. I really love the return to form without it being just a complete carbon copy, because there's so many bands that try to do this style. I'm looking at you, Greta Van Fleet, that all they do is like cut and paste. Where at least with this, there's a interpretation, there's a making of your own and ownership of the music, while still being, paying homage or, utilizing your influences and really showcasing that and making music that you love. So yeah, great album. Go and check it out. And that's what I've got. To Shoot Another Day by Rosalie Cunningham. What did you guys think about this record? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And that's where I'm going to leave you guys for today. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.